Ever since I started my work in politics, I have heard stories and rumors of something sinister happening in South Africa. I was regularly sent images and videos claiming there was a white genocide.
You have to believe in facts.
Motion. It all begins in 1652, when the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC, became the first European group to establish a permanent settlement on South Africa's western coast. At this time, the rest of the country was inhabited only by the Khoisan people, an ancient nomadic group who foraged the land long before the black tribes migrated south into the modern-day KwaZulu-Natal. The VOC made its first purchase of land from the Khoisan people in 1671.
Check the history books. Look at history. Look at the facts.
Extensive murder rates. Why are these so much worse?
Farm murders are one of the most gruesome kind of crime scenes that we have to deal with, especially, well, in South Africa. Farm murders are intentional. It's not robberies. It's intention. The intention of the attackers is, according to us and what we've seen, is to kill. It's been classified, especially on the crime stats as well, that it's attacks or robberies, burglaries. But because there is no statistic for farm murders currently in South Africa, the brutality of the farm murders in South Africa is undescribable. We found pieces of nails being pulled out. We found hands being removed from bodies. We found people raped, murdered, brutally murdered, babies, children, the farmers trying to protect their families, and there's just no stopping. The farm murders are brutal. Another one that stays with me is in Johannesburg, just outside Johannesburg. We had a farm murder where 5 people came in. It was arranged by their domestic worker, and they drowned the 12-year-old boy in boiling hot water. So we had to remove the skin from the bath as it was peeling off him in the hot water. That was a terrible scene. If you look at the worst movies ever made, it's not really a patch against what is really going on there. It's unbelievable.
Having heard from the far right corners of the internet that these murders were racially based, I was intent on finding out what motives the Blood Sisters attributed to these kinds of attacks.
90% of the increase we found is due to unemployment, racial discrimination, and there's no hope. If you don't start your own business in South Africa, where are you going to work? There's no work.
Racial discrimination against who, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I have to be careful.
Careful.
Yeah.
Because
I have to be a little bit careful.
We work very closely with government.
Yeah.
And, I spoke to Simon about it outside. Racial discrimination against people. People. I know what you have to say, and
no, it's okay.
We have to be so careful.
Yeah, I have to think.
We love everybody to hear what we have to say. We want to say so much more, but we have to exercise so much restraint.
Anonymously,
stay behind and work.
I will tell you a lot of stuff.
I knew I had to investigate further. I had to meet the families caught up in these attacks.
We have to actually believe in an objective reality.
Jobs around here, we're suffering badly. Even the youngest kids. I've got a 5-year-old, 2-year-old, I don't know how I'm going to give them a life around here.
Well, where we lived, things were very dangerous. The one day, there was black people walking in the street, and they shot through our windows. And I went, and the police did nothing.
You can't even walk in the streets around. At night, during the day, they always rape you or they beat you up. They're swearing at you in the language. They know you don't know the language, but they will come and swear at you, breaking you down around you. You don't feel like a person around you anymore. So they're making sure our people, we don't have a life anymore. They will make sure about it.
This is just one of dozens of camps like it in South Africa, a growing testament to the resentment the country's white population now faces. In order to learn more about...
Check the history books. The fact that technology cannot be put back in a bottle. So we're stuck with the fact that we now live close together.
The residents of Kleinfontein would rather live separately from people who aren't like them. It's a small settlement on a private farm. A bust of one of apartheid's architects welcomes people. Outsiders are normally turned away at the gate, but today the Tshwane mayor is visiting to discuss the residents' efforts to have their settlement formally recognised.
We are an Afrikaans cultural community. Article 235 of the Constitution says we've got the right to stay apart with our own language, religious beliefs and culture.
19 years after the end of apartheid, it's hard for many people here to understand why anyone would choose this life.
They don't want to be associated with black people. They don't want to be associated with South Africa of today. They still believe in the past.
Kleinfontein was established in 1992 in the dying days of apartheid, but it's not the only Afrikaner-only settlement in South Africa.
The discrimination of the apartheid in South Africa has long come to an end, but now, 2 decades after the country's long-fought battle for human rights finished, it's the whites who now feel they're second-class citizens. Paula Sleer looks into their claims.
Once the colour of Alta van Staden's skin was the key to the good life here. Now it is merely part of another forgotten face of the new South Africa. White, homeless and unemployed.
Feels like everybody forgot about us.
Alta is one of a growing number of Afrikaans South Africans living a hop, skip and a jump from sleeping on the streets. Her worldly possessions amount to a bed and some clothes. The rest are handouts from charities and churches. Sometimes she goes without food for days.
There was always places for us to go. We can have jobs and stuff like that, and now just walk into a place, there's no job for whites.
When South Africa held its first democratic elections 18 years ago, it marked the end of apartheid, separation between whites and blacks. But whereas once it was black people in this country who were discriminated against, today it's white South Africans who are falling through the cracks. In the days of apartheid, impoverished white Afrikaners were cradled by the state. The National Party came to power in 1948 on a wave of Afrikaner nationalism. One of its election promises was to guarantee Afrikaans-speaking South Africans employment, subsidized housing, education, jobs and state benefits. It left the black population out in the cold.
There used to be a big middle class created by the system in South Africa, and that created, in a sense, a safe haven for white people.
Since 1994, the new government has carried out policies aimed at favouring black employees in a bid to do away with the imbalance of the past. What this means is that white people are often overlooked when applying for jobs, college bursaries and public positions. In this brave but often unsettling new South Africa, there are many who feel washed up and unwanted. 40-year-old Irene van Niekerk has lived here with her husband and 4 children for 6 years. She suffers from the pain of arthritis, which makes it difficult for her to walk. She calls the government's well-meaning policies little short of reverse racism.
Many years back, when our grandfathers and grandmothers was against the black people, they were staying in shacks like us, and they were staying in houses and got everything. And now it's out then. We're staying in shacks and they're staying in houses.
This abandoned caravan park is home for now. It lends those on the fringes of society a place to sleep. But even this shaky safe haven is under threat. The owners of this land are fighting in court to move off the people.
People who stay here has got nothing. Nothing. They haven't got to work, they haven't got a place to go. They've got nothing left. Nothing. That's why they're staying here.
50 million people live in South Africa. 1 in 9 is white, and very many of them are struggling. Try telling that to the millions of black South Africans living in grinding poverty. But for people like Alte van Staden, it is a depressing come down. All she can see in the land of her birth is a door slamming in her face forever.
I don't know what is going to happen to my little boy or my girls. I mean, there is no hope for us anymore.
Except the hope that one day a door will open instead of slam. Paul Islier, RT, Krugersdorp, South Africa.
The more things have changed, the more things stayed the same.
Gaan jy nou weer stil? Nou hoekom stil jy? Ek klim binnekant, ek kan nie hoor wat jy sê nie. Wie se kabel is daai? As jy nie gaan ek jou toemaak, dat ek sommer die tas opsit.
Dis die laaste wat jy kan praat en praat jy nog kakker. Jy kan kies of ek slaat jou maar rein of ek sit jou in die brand nie, wat bro.
Wil jy vandag doodgaan of starre? Klim, jy praat kaak. Kom, klim. Jy wil mos kaak praat. Kom. Niks. Ja, voor in die bakkie is 'n luite. Kom, maak. Hey, kom, klim. Nyan ka chonsa mos. Nyan chonsa mos. Kiwel, ya. Nyan ensi chonsa mos. Ya, usupulala kos nyan pulali plaza mos. Ken apagat. Au chigis so. Ken apagat.
Elala gasa.
Kena. Fagisan lasak. Uzwag. Okay.
Saan was pizza van daar.
Chama when ufunu popala.
You on camera now. That guy says it's you who told him where to go and steal and what.
Why me?
Yeah, you. And you is the one who cut his hair.
Oh, that's low.
Huh? Yellow pusa man. Hey, yellow. Bakit? Kom hier. Waar is het push man? Serious a push man. It's not serious a push. Serious a push. You must call it serious. Fuck you. Michael's brother told me it's you who told him. Michael's brother told me it's you. This fucking beanie.
It's not me.
It's you push.
Serious. It's not me. Just call it.
Waar fucking is jy? Waar fucking is jy?
Police opening fire on striking mine workers. Images of a turning point in post-apartheid South Africa. By the time the guns fell silent on August 16th, it was clear that growing inequality threatened stability in Nelson Mandela's Rainbow Nation. It's an episode locals have dubbed the Marikana Massacre.
The Marikana Massacre is not a simple issue. It's so hugely complex.
But it's part of the dysfunctionality of our state.
I think it's going to shake up a lot of things in the country. It's making us ask a lot